meditation can be seen as different kinds of things. The development of mindfulness as a formal practice while sitting or standing or walking or lying down or cooking or cleaning, but also using different kinds of skillful means, such as what I just mentioned, the art of archery, the art of flower arrangements, and even the way of tea. It's not just having a quick cup of tea, but actually a very ceremonial way of making the tea. It's usually green tea that is being stirred by a special kind of brush, and then divided between the participants in the tea ceremony, mindfully handing one cup to the other, and receiving it also mindfully, then drinking it mindfully, cleaning the cup mindfully, and putting it away mindfully. So one could wonder what use does that have, but it actually does have very good use of learning to be mindful in different kinds of situations. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha advises us to be aware of our body, our feelings, our mind, and the mind objects. It's called Kaya Nusati Bhavana, Vedana Nusati Bhavana, Chitta Nusati Bhavana, and Dhamma Nusati Bhavana. So Kaya, or body, can consist of this awareness of the posture that we have, whether we are sitting or standing or walking or lying down. That kind of awareness of the body can be there, but it can also mean the temperature, for instance, of the body, to be aware of the heat and the cold, or whether we are feeling light or heavy, for instance. The different elements, so to speak. Sometimes the fire element may be predominant and we feel very hot, or the water element may be predominant and we start sweating, or the air element may be predominant and we feel very light, the earth element being predominant, we may feel very heavy. So it's just the combination of the earth, water, fire and air elements. Sometimes one is more predominant than the other. And that also we can become aware of, and that's also a kind of body contemplation. So in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta you find body contemplation. Even after death one reflects on what happens to this body. Not of course nowadays when we go to a florist and the body is being embalmed and put away in a freezer or something like that, and then neatly cremated. But in the old days, during the Buddha's time, these bodies were left on the charnel grounds, and then different kinds of animals would come and eat it, or it would be bloating, and all kinds of ugly things would be coming out of this body, and that is used as a kind of body contemplation for the pilikul, or the asubha, or the unpleasant side of our physical body, to contemplate that eventually we also end up like that. And it is not as beautiful as we think it is. So that's mainly to overcome the imbalance of being very attached to one's body, or to one's own, or to that of others. And then we have the Anapanasati Bhavana, the meditation or the mindfulness of breathing, which is also part of our bodily functions. So Anapanasati Bhavana, or mindfulness of breathing, is the most general of the Buddhist meditations practiced, and it is actually also a very useful one, both for getting tranquility, samatha, as well as insight, or vipassana jnana, insight into the nature of the body and the mind. So Anapanasati was actually discovered by Prince Siddhartha when he was only 7 years old and sitting under the jambu tree while his father was doing the ploughing ceremony, and he got into a kind of trance or jhanic state and found, wow, by putting my attention on the breathing, and that was later on used as a basic type of meditation for the practice of both tranquility meditation, which is basically using our power of concentration on a chosen object. In this particular context, it is the breath itself as a chosen object, and we're also going to practice that during our sitting meditation as the most sort of favored object to focus one's attention on and to come back to and to stay with whenever possible. Now, Anapanasati Bhavana, or the development of mindfulness on breathing, is both a technique for tranquility as well as insight. Why? If you manage to get fully concentrated on the breath, and you, for instance, use different techniques to keep your concentration on the breathing, for instance, by counting the breath, not from 1 to 257 or beyond, but starting to try keep your mindfulness on the breathing from 1 to 5 even. In-breath and out-breath is 1, then the next in-breath and out-breath 2. When you start the meditation, that is a good way of increasing the power of concentration. Once you reach 5 and you haven't yet missed one breath, that is quite an achievement actually. Then you could go back to 1 and try to increase the number of breaths that you're aware of constantly and uninterruptedly up to 6, and then up to 7, and preferably not beyond 10. If you manage to be aware fully of the breath for 10 consecutive breaths, then I have reason to congratulate you, because that is quite an achievement. Usually what happens is that our attention wavers and the mind goes back and forth to objects that have to do with the so-called past, our past, and the so-called future, which is not really here yet. So if we divide our attention all the time between past and future, we are very seldom right here in the present moment. And so what this Anapanasati Bhavana, mindfulness of breathing, also does is that it brings your attention right into the present moment. Because basically, if you're trying to feel your breathing, then you won't be able to feel the breaths which have already come and gone. The past breaths are impossible to feel. Maybe you can remember them, but you can't feel them really. And you also cannot feel even the next breath yet. What you can really feel is that part of the air that is touching your nostrils in the present moment. And that means the very present of this moment-to-moment awareness. So, when we are practicing Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, and you are really aware of that subtle sensation of the breath inside your nostrils, then that means you are living exactly in the present moment. And then from that vantage point you can start to observe other kind of objects which probably come to your mind. Undoubtedly the mind will start going here and there again. So you can start observing that from the watching of the breath as a home base or a focal point for your attention. And then you start noticing, yes, thinking is going on, or hearing is going on, or feeling of certain sensations is going on. And in order to make yourself more familiar with that, if you haven't done this yet many times, you could, at the beginning, use the technique called labeling. You label the experience as hearing, hearing, thinking, thinking, feeling, feeling. Now, you might say, of course I know that I'm hearing when I'm hearing, or I'm feeling when I'm feeling, but very often what happens is that we hear something and then we start interpreting that sound as pleasant or unpleasant, or the horn of a bus, or a dog barking, or a crow, something like that. And then whether we like it or we don't like it, and then we start proliferating our thoughts after hearing a certain sound. And then you're not really hearing anymore, you're just thinking about the previous sound that you heard just now. And that is not actually mindfulness of hearing. So So if we use that labeling technique of hearing, 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 especially if the sound is persistent and it is taking you away from your chosen object of the breathing, then you might as well sort of give in to it and acknowledge that you are hearing. And the labeling of this experience as a neutral label such as hearing, hearing, hearing helps us to not get involved in the experience by likes or dislikes. And if we can manage not to get involved by liking and disliking, then we may be able to see the experience for what it really is, and just be aware of the breath as the breath, or the hearing as the hearing, the seeing in the seeing. And that is what the Buddha was trying to express also when he said, let the seen be in the seen, the heard in the heard, the feelings in the feelings, and the thought in the thought. Not to add more what is called judgments or likes or dislikes. So when you start meditating, you could make a kind of a non-proliferation treaty with yourself, saying, I'm not going to proliferate these thoughts, I'm just going to use a little labeling technique to identify what's happening, and then also to realize that the label is not the thing that you're experiencing also. So the labeling should be helpful only up to a certain extent to identify what you're experiencing, and then you just pay attention to that particular thing which you're experiencing. Now you know you're hearing. What is this hearing? And then you can also start to see, perhaps, the difference between that sound and the observer or your consciousness. And then you get an experience of, well, the difference between form and name, or mind and matter. So those are kind of insights that may occur when you do practice this technique. And we just use the breath as a form of, well, some natural object that we have with us all the time. We don't use a kind of visualization technique. We don't use mantras or other kind of techniques to repeat a word or something like that, except perhaps when we practice what is called metta bhavana, the development of metta or universal loving kindness, which we do for starters, so to speak, before we start observing the breathing. That is to get our minds away from the daily troubles and maybe the traffic situation into a softening of the mind by developing a good quality, such as loving kindness to all beings, starting with yourself. And that is a kind of contemplation where you do use your thinking mind, but with feeling also of sympathy and loving kindness and compassion for all beings. So in that case, we do use a kind of thinking process. Otherwise, in the mindfulness and awareness development, it is mainly pure mindfulness or bare attention that is put to the object. And these objects will probably present themselves to you. You don't really have to search for them. While you are trying to observe your own breathing, you will probably be drawn away from that breath by some strong sound from time to time, like the traffic that is going on still, or to a physical feeling in your body, maybe a painful sensation in your back or someplace. That could take your attention away. And rather than evaluating that as a bad experience or an unpleasant feeling and ouch or ayo, this feeling of my feeling, you could label it as just feeling, feeling, feeling. And rather than trying to get away from it, which would be a natural reaction, most people try to avoid pain, but not that we have to create pain, but when you're sitting, especially in this rather low cross-legged position, or even if we would give a very comfortable chair, after some time you will get some uncomfortable feelings in the body, and those predominant feelings will draw your attention away. And then if you label it, and if you just look at it, as feeling, feeling, feeling. You don't get attached to it, you don't get involved in it, and it will just come and go. So similar with all the other objects that may come to you. But when we are sitting for the formal meditation, usually we have our eyes closed. We cannot close our ears, so we do have some sounds coming in. And you cannot close your mind, so you'll have some thoughts coming in. And unless you're completely, what is called, having all over the body neuropathy, you would be feeling your body. Sometimes actually when you do pay attention to the feelings in your body and you treat them with equanimity, then sometimes you might lose body consciousness. You don't feel the body after some time. It doesn't bother you. That also happens. Nothing to be afraid of. You'll probably find your body sitting here when you open your eyes again at the end of the meditation. Sometimes people also have the feeling that they're losing themselves. Where am I going? You know, my mind is not there, or no thoughts, and unfamiliar new experience sometimes comes, and one tries to kind of categorize that in a known category, and it is new. But you may be able to just accept the new experience that may not consist of something that you already know, just as a new dimension, and become familiar with it and allow it to happen. Then there's nothing to be scared of, afraid of, and nothing basically to hold on to also. And what happens is actually, that's another aspect of this mindfulness of breathing and the development of mindfulness in general. Besides getting calm and quiet, such as you do during tranquility meditation, you also develop certain types of insights, insight knowledge or insight wisdom, such as the becoming aware of the constant changing nature of all the physical and mental phenomena. Like you start to see how quickly actually your mind is changing. The thoughts, your intentions, your feelings, the contents of your consciousness, they never remain the same for even a fraction of a second. The body, of course, is also changing, but we don't notice that so dramatically. But definitely the body also is never the same exactly, even for 2 consecutive moments. So when we do get those insights into the changeability, or what we call anicca, the impermanence, then it's not meant to be a morbid sort of discovery that everything is changing and I'm going to lose everything, but rather that we accept the change and learn to live with it and see that that is the nature of everything within myself and within others. And the more that we cling, the more problems we get. So it is supposed to overcome clinging and craving. And these insight knowledges, or these vipassana jnanas, are supposed to uproot our greed, hatred, and also delusion. Delusion or ignorance being the main culprit, so to speak, the main factor which keeps us more or less clustered to this samsara, or the cycle of life, birth, death, and rebirth. So if we practice what is called vipassana meditation, or mindfulness of body and mind, then we do get these insights, the flashes of insight that help us to replace ignorance or delusion by wisdom. And that in itself will set us free from fear and also greed, hatred, jealousy, and other kind of negative emotions that usually keep us clustered to this body and mind. So I would say that is more or less the background information of our practice of the meditation. Do you have any questions at this moment before we actually start the practice? So actually this moment, if there are no questions, we can just start the practice of our meditation by sitting in a balanced position. You can sit cross-legged or in the way that you feel more comfortable, with the eyes gently closed. Letting go of all the thoughts about past and future by focusing your attention on your body sitting here now. Just to become aware of your body, from the touching points on the floor, the cushion, becoming aware of your sitting posture, the way you are sitting. If you feel you need to make some slight adjustments, this is a good time to do so. And become aware of the whole body going upward, including your hands and arms, your shoulders and neck, and your head. All the way to the very top of your head. Till you can feel some sensations on the top of your head. And from top to toe and bottom to top, just be aware of your whole body sitting here now. You can be aware of those sounds when they come and go. But for the time being, just feel your body predominantly sitting here. And let the sounds come and go by themselves. And once you have arrived at just sitting here, now, let us then develop metta, universal loving kindness for all beings, by wishing from your heart and repeating within your mind after me. May I be free from anger and fear. May I be free from greed, hatred, and delusion. May I be free from conflict and suffering. May I be free from conflict and suffering. May I be well, peaceful, and happy. May I be well and happy. May all beings, near and far, be free from conflict and suffering, free from dukkha. May all beings, human, animal, the visible and invisible, be well, peaceful, and happy. May all beings in all directions, above, below, in front of me, behind me, to my right, to my left, to the north, to the south, in the east, in the west, and all around in all directions, near and far. May all beings be well, peaceful, and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. With metta in your mind and heart, you can even further develop it when you once again feel your whole body from top to toe, bottom to top, and send metta throughout your body to all parts of the body, into all cells in your body, by wishing, may I be well and happy. Well and happy. Well and happy. And after dwelling for some more time in metta, and with the tranquility that it brings, when you're ready for it, you can start focusing your attention on the touch sensation of the breath inside your nostrils as a chosen object to become aware of, as a focal point for your attention, as a home base for your awareness. And in order to feel the breath clearly, you can take 2 or 3 deep breaths at the beginning and clearly feel the touch sensation within your nostrils or near the tip of your nose. And focus your attention on that sensation from the beginning through the middle to the end, keeping the mind in one place, near the tip of your nose, where the air touches. Letting the air come in and go out, without following it in and out. And then returning to the natural, normal breathing. And let the breath just come and go by itself. Sometimes you might feel like taking a deep breath that comes naturally, when your body needs more oxygen. Naturally, from time to time, the sounds will take away our attention from the breath. Never mind, it's just hearing, hearing. Without condemning the sounds, just name it or label it as hearing, hearing, when it becomes predominant. And if you feel that counting the breath helps your concentration, you can practice the counting of the breath. But otherwise, just be aware of the breathing. Naturally, some thoughts will be coming to your mind from time to time or very regularly. Never mind, don't worry. It's just thinking, thinking, thinking. Most of these thoughts we don't really need in the present moment. So let them come and go, without clinging to anything, without condemning anything, without getting involved in anything. Physical sensations in the body also may draw your attention away from the breath. Rather than fighting the sensation, become friends with it. Acknowledge it. Become one with it. Letting go of the resistance against it, especially if it's an unpleasant feeling. When we don't cling to the pleasant, don't condemn the unpleasant, we start to see the things as they really are, from moment to moment. After some time, we also should drop the labeling and just be aware, knowing what is happening, through which sense, without thinking about it. just experiencing it. After some time you may experience that the mind is becoming calmer and calmer. Just let it come to a state of being without trying to go anywhere or doing anything or trying to become something. Being from moment to moment. And being aware of it. It is in a state of being, not when the mind is trying to become something, but in a state of being, that we may discover another dimension. A peaceful happiness within, with a sense of security. Independent from the senses. Where there is no hearing, no seeing, no smelling or tasting, no feeling or thinking, just being. In the meditation, we don't need to go anywhere. All we need is already there within this body and mind. And what we are looking for is not somewhere far away or in the distant future. It's basically there all the time, but very often covered by our thoughts and negative emotions. So in that state of being we can uncover it, discover it. May all good things come. Bhavatu sabba mangalam. May the invisible helpers, devatas, protect us. Rakantu sabba devata. By the power of all enlightened ones, sabba buddhanubhavena, by the power of all truth, sabba dhammanubhavena, by the power of the spiritual community, sabba sanghanubhavena. May the highest happiness, paramang sukham, the deepest peace, paramashanti, the greatest security, sada sati, ever be yours. Bhavatu sabba mangalam, rakantu sabba devata, Samba buddhanubhavina sada sati bhavantu te bhavatu samba mangalam rakkantu samba divatam samba dhammanubhavina sada sati bhavantu te bhavatu samba mangalam rakkantu samba divatam samba sanghanubhavina sada sati bhavantu te. Towards the end of the first sitting meditation, before opening your eyes, it's good to feel your whole body sitting here once again, from top to toe, bottom to toe. And then to gradually open up to your environment, become aware of your surroundings. The hall in which we're sitting, the outside, the people sitting around you, next to you, or just yourself sitting here. The sounds around you, near and far. And also the silence around you and the silence within you. And while relaxing body and mind, you can slowly open your eyes. Those who wish to continue meditating in sitting posture can do so. Otherwise, we can slowly and mindfully come to a standing position and practice some mindfulness while standing.